of Nissan, Frank and Debbie Spector, for dedicating all of the Shurim and Drushos this month in deep gratitude to the entire Kehillah. Paul and Kathy Pollack, for dedicating all of the Shurim and Drushos this month in memory of Paul's father, Shmuel ben Zachariah, his mother Sarah bas Avram, and great-grandmother Cyril bas Reb Dov. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, all of the neshamas will have an aliyah, and the families ein chama. So with that, let us begin. So beautiful daf ahead of us today. All right, first of all, especially Ashikach to Dovi Elman for that background. Mamish makes me feel a little bit more at home. Good, beautiful, beautiful. The Elmans by far win the Zoom Creativity Award in general. Okay, so we'll say with that, let us begin. So we have a beautiful Mishnah ahead of us. Well, a beautiful Gemara ahead of us today. So here we go. Mishnah, we left off 44a, Mem Daled Amud Aleph. Mitaltalin ner chadash, aval lo yashan. So we'll say the halacha is, the Tana Kama says, that on Shabbos you are permitted to go ahead and carry a ner chadash. So remember again, ner chadash, ner. Remember, like we've been saying over and over, it doesn't just simply mean a candle, but ner means a lamp. So remember again, this was a vessel which contained oil and had a lip, ultimately again for a wick as well. So the Tana Kama says that you could go ahead and carry a ner which has been never used before, but on Shabbos you may not carry a ner yashan, a lamp that has been used. Rabbi Shimon Mati, Rabbi Shimon says that you can. I'm sorry, Rabbi Shimon says, Kalaneros metaltlin, you could carry any lamp on Shabbos, chutz min haner hadolik b'Shabbos, with one exception, if the lamp itself is actually kindled. So Rabbi Shimon holds that whether the lamp is new, whether the lamp is old, that's irrelevant. You could go ahead and carry that lamp regardless. But lamaisa, if it's kindled, then you can't carry it. So let's analyze a little bit what's happening over here. So I just saw Ari Elman came on. Ari Elman, I don't want to create kinas achem over here, but your brother's totally outdone you. You're still on Yam Suf, right? And he's in the base medrash. So just you'll take this offline. Maybe your father could be machriya over here. But okay. So we'll say let's take a look at the Mishnah. So the Mishnah says using Rashi. Rashi is metaltal ner chadash she'eno maos v'chazu li'ishtamushe laheja shlo dalak bo ner li'olam. So we'll say. So remember again, just to get our definitions. A ner chadash means a lamp that has never been used. A ner yashan means a lamp that has been used. So what's the problem? Once a lamp has been used, generally it becomes a bit soiled, because you remember these are made of earthenware, so the oil seeps in, stuff drips on it, so lamaisa, it becomes a bit disgusting. The Mishnah is introducing us to a new category of muktzah called muktzah machmas mius. When something is, now mius is a very strong word. Mius literally means disgusting. What it means is that when something is dirty or just not nice, in general, people don't use it. Because people don't use it, it becomes muktzah, a new category called muktzah machmas mius. So the Mishnah therefore says, according to the Tana Kama, if you have a brand new lamp that has never been used, so then it's fine. You could, in other words, if you want to find a permitted use for that on Shabbos, obviously you can't kindle it, but Lamaisa, if you want to find some other permitted use for that on Shabbos, you certainly have the right to do so. You want to use it as a paperweight, you want to use it to hold your salad dressing, you can do whatever you want with it. But once the lamp has been used, by definition, it's quote-unquote mius, it's quote-unquote disgusting, and therefore it's muktzah machmas mius. Now remember, according to the Tana Kama, that is true. Of course, if there's an actual candle lit inside of it, of course it's going to be muktzah, right? That's going to be what we call muktzah machmas iser. But even if there's nothing lit in it, if it's used, it's muktzah machmas mius. Rabbi Shimon seems to reject this category of muktzah. Remember, again, Abosai, this is going back to yesterday's daf, where we saw the Gemara quote the idea, the way the Gemara phrases it is that Rabbi Shimon leslie muktzah, right? Rabbi Shimon doesn't hold the muktzah. So when we pointed out in yesterday's daf, of course that's not literal. Everyone holds of muktzah. But rather Rabbi Shimon has a much more expansive or a much less limited view of muktzah. So it appears that Rabbi Shimon says the only time that a lamp is going to be muktzah on Shabbos is when there is an actual flame, when the wick is actually lit. Then it's aser. But lamaisa, if it's extinguished, if the lamp is not lit, so whether halacha lamaisa, it's a new lamp or an old lamp, it makes absolutely no difference. So we'll say, let's analyze. Says the Gemara, Tan Rabbanon, Metaltal ner Chadash, Avalo Yashan Diver Rabbi Huda. So we'll say, now the Gemara is going to take this machlokis in the Mishnah and show how it's also machlokis in the Braisa. So watch this. You're permitted to go ahead and carry a new lamp, but not an old lamp. These are the words of Rabbi Huda. So we'll say, so seemingly, Rabbi Huda holds halacha l'maisa that what? That an old lamp is muktzah machmas mios. Rabbi Meir says, kol haneros mitaltalin. The truth is, you can carry whatever lamp you want on Shabbos, chutz min haner shehedliko bo b'Shabbos. If you notice over here, Rabbi Meir is throwing in something very interesting, with the exception of a lamp that was kindled on Shabbos. Now, the novelty in Rabbi Meir's ruling is what? If that lamp was kindled at the onset of Shabbos, even if what? Even if it is currently extinguished, you are still not permitted to go ahead and handle that lamp over the course of Shabbos. That goes back to what we learned yesterday, which was what? Look at Rashi for just a moment. Chutz min haner shedliku va'afal gav shekava aser. The isle Rabbi Meir muktzah machmas iser. The less they muktzah machmas mius. So it's actually very interesting. So Rabbi Meir holds that halacha l'maisa, and I'm going to clarify this sheet a little bit. So you'll see in Rabbi Meir's world, so let's go take a step back. In Rabbi Huda's world, we're going to make a distinction between a ner chadash and a ner yashan. If it's a brand new lamp, and obviously it's not currently kindled, totally permitted to go ahead and move it, use it for whatever you need to on Shabbos. Ner yashan, it's already been used, muktzah machmas mios. Okay, comes on Rabbi Meir. So according to Rashi, Rabbi Meir does not hold of muktzah machmas mios. He doesn't hold of that. So instead, what does Rabbi Meir look like? Was the candle used on Shabbos or not? If the lamp was used on Shabbos, then lamaisa it's muktzah. Why is it muktzah? It's called muktzah machmas iser. Muktzah machmas iser means something that cannot be handled, because to handle it by definition involves iser, involves prohibition. A flame is prohibited on Shabbos. Therefore, Rabbi Meir says if the lamp was kindled on Shabbos, the lamp, whether it's old or new, is irrelevant. But if it was kindled on Shabbos, then lamaisa, again, it's muktzah machmas iser. That's shitas Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Shimon says, chutz min haner hadolik b'Shabbos. So let's remember again, in Rabbi Meir's model, what we essentially look at was this candle, was this lamp kindled at the onset of Shabbos? If it was kindled at the onset of Shabbos, it therefore has a muktzah designation. Once it has a muktzah designation, remember again the type of muktzah machmas iser. Once that muktzah designation is there, it stays with the lamp for the remainder of Shabbos. Rabbi Shimon comes along and he gives a third shita. In Rabbi Shimon's worldview, Rabbi Shimon Omer, chutz min haner hadolek b'Shabbos. Remember, Rabbi Shimon holds the only time that the lamp is muktzah is when? Is halacha l'maisa, if it's actually a flame, right? If it's actually lit, if it's actually kindled. Therefore, kafsa mutra taltala. So once the flame goes out, then l'maisa you are permitted to go ahead and handle the lamp on Shabbos. So I will say, so just so you understand, three different opinions over here, right? Rabbi Yehuda focuses on new versus old. Right? Now Rabbi Yehuda doesn't even get into the discussion about whether the lamp is lit or not lit, because in Rabbi Yehuda's model, it's obvious if the lamp is lit, either at the onset of Shabbos or currently, you can't move it. So his distinction is it a new lamp or is it an old lamp? If it's a new lamp, then it's not muktzah. If it's an old lamp, then it's muktzah machmas mios. It's disgusting, and therefore you can't move it on Shabbos. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir does not subscribe to the concept of muktzah machmas mios. He does not hold that there is such a category that exists. Therefore, what Rabbi Meir does subscribe to is the concept of muktzah machmas iser. And muktzah machmas iser means something that is muktzah, ultimately again because of iser, which would be a lamp because it has a flame. Therefore, Rabbi Meir says, if that lamp was kindled at the onset of Shabbos, it remains muktzah for the duration of Shabbos. Rabbi Shimon, the only time a lamp will be muktzah is when halacha l'maisa it's actively lit. If it's lit, then it's muktzah. If it's not lit, meaning even if it was lit but it's no longer currently lit, it is no longer muktzah. So let's analyze. However, the Gemara goes on. Listen to this. However, kos uke'ara va'ashashis. But I will say if you have a kos. Now remember again, Kos means a cup, right? Ka'ara, a bowl, and ashashis also means some type of receptacle. Rashi says, Kos gadol shel zechuchis shekarin lanpa. So this must be some type of like lantern. The idea over here is to say these are all larger receptacles. That as opposed to a nair, which holds only a relatively small amount of oil, these other utensils hold larger amounts of oil. But halacha l'maisa says Rabbi Shimon, as much as Rabbi Shimon said that the only time you can't move the lamp is when it's lit, but once it's extinguished, you are permitted to go ahead and move it according to Rabbi Shimon. Aval kos u'ka'ara v'ashashes lo yezizeh mimikoman. But if you have a kos, a ka'ara, ashashes, a larger receptacle filled with oil, you cannot move them at all. Right? So remember again, just so you understand, in Rabbi Shimon's model, Rabbi Shimon is not really focused on muktzah machmas mios, and not so much even muktzah machmas isser. Although he holds of muktzah machmas isser, but he says the isser is only there when the actual flame is lit. Once the flame is extinguished, there's no longer any muktzah status upon the item. But he does agree that in the case of these larger receptacles, a kos, a ka'ar, and ashashis, which again I both say, just larger receptacles that hold larger amounts of oil, he agrees that even once the flame goes out, they still remain muktzah. We'll see why he has that distinction. Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon says, well, say this is the most permissive sheet. I'll listen to this. Mistapek min haner hakava umin hashemen hametaftef. So what Rabbi Shimon says that halacha l'maisa, once the flame has been extinguished in the nair, the halacha is that what? You can go ahead and can benefit from the remaining oil, which is incredible, right? Once the flame has gone out, you can benefit from the remaining oil. Or for that matter, again, going back to Mishnayos, if you have oil that's dripping out of the nair and you are catching that in another utensil, you are permitted to go ahead and use the oil which drips out. Va'afilu b'sha'al shahaner dolek. Wild. And I will say Rabbi Elazar Shimon seems to be, Rabbi Elazar Shimon is saying, and the truth is, you could even go ahead and what? You could even go ahead and draw out oil while the fire is still burning. Okay, so obviously this sheet is going to require a good amount of explanation. Amar Abaye, so Abaye says, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon, Savarla ka'avua bechada upalagale bechad. So we'll say, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon holds like his father in one case and disagrees in another case. Remember, Rabbi Shimon in general, when it comes to Hilchos Moktzah, we always thought, had like the most permissive stance. It turns out that his son was even more permissive than him. Because remember again, what did Rabbi Shimon say? Rabbi Shimon said that halacha l'maisa, the only time that a ner is Moktzah on Shabbos is when halacha l'maisa, it's lit. Once it's extinguished, so the ner is no longer muktzah, whether that's a ner chadash or a ner yashan. Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon. So the son comes along and says that first of all, once the ner goes out, you can get benefit from the oil. Not only that, but he seems that you can even draw off oil while the candle is still lit. And not only that, but even if you have oil that's leaking off and being caught into another receptacle, you can get benefit from that oil in that secondary receptacle as well. So Abai comes along and says, Rabbi Shimon holds like his father in one case, but argues on his father in a different case. How so? Here we go. Savarla ka'avua bechada de lesle muktzah. So first of all, he holds like his father in general, that he doesn't hold the muktzah. So let's remember, again, like we said in yesterday's daf, it doesn't literally mean that Rabbi Shimon doesn't hold of muktzah. Remember again, everyone holds of muktzah. It is a halacha. There's just a machlokes, ultimately again, to what parameters you accept of muktzah. So number one, Rabbi Eliezer, like his father, allows for a more, we'll call it broader range or more permissive form of muktzah. That Rabbi Shimon essentially really only holds, first of all, it sounds like Rabbi Shimon rejects the notion of muktzah machmas mius. So this is very important because remember again, this new category of muktzah that our Mishnah has introduced us to, that was something is quote unquote disgusting, right? When something is soiled, so by definition that makes it muktzah. That was the opinion espoused in the Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon seemingly does not accept that category of muktzah. So therefore, again, and not only that, But Rabbi Shimon Abose also rejects another very important point, which it sounds like that according to Rabbi Shimon, remember yesterday's daf, we saw that principle, which in fact we accept halacha l'maisa. We'll get to halacha l'maisa in tomorrow's daf, but we accept halacha l'maisa, the concept of migo di iskatsoy bebein hashmashas iskatsoy l'kulei shabsa. That if something is muktzah at the onset of Shabbos, that muktzah designation remains with it through Shabbos, even if the mitzias, right, even if the physical reality of the item has changed subsequently over Shabbos. Rabbi Shimon clearly does not accept that approach. How do we know Rabbi Shimon doesn't accept that approach? Because remember again, look at the case of the ner. In the case of the ner, Rabbi Shimon holds, when is it muktzah? It's only muktzah when it's kindled. But once it goes out, halacha l'maisa, the ner itself is no longer muktzah. So therefore, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon holds like his father in that, just like his father, he holds of a more permissive framework of muktzah. But however, upoligale bechada. But he also argues on his father in one case. How so? Di'ilu avua savar kava in lo kava lo. So you will see even Rabbi Shimon holds that when the lamp is lit, it's off limits. It's muktzah. Everything about it is muktzah. In other words, that you can't move it, obviously, but you also can't go ahead and what? You also can't draw oil off it. Or for that matter, again, any oil that drips out of it will be unusable as well. And yet, v'ihu savar afa gav de lo kava. But remember again, Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon holds that what? That halacha l'maisa, that even when the fire is still burning, he holds that you could draw off some oil from the fire and not from the lamp, and not only that, but what? Halacha l'maisa, if the oil drips out and is being caught in something else, halacha l'maisa, you can go ahead and use that oil that drips out as well. So if you take a look at Rashi, Rashi says over here, kava in lo kavalo, to lo sham'inon le Rabbi Shimon the shayba masnisin ela mosar shemen shebener v'shebekaira the mashma la'achar shakava. Even Rabbi Shimon, who allows you potentially to use some of the leftover oil, that's only once the fire goes out. But when the lamp is burning, Rabbi Shimon is very clear that that lamp is absolutely off limits. So Rabbi says, see something very interesting over here. That Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon, so remember, Rabbi Eliezer holds like Rabbi Shimon, his father, in that they both hold of a more permissive form of muktzah. But but father and son argue in a very crucial point. Rabbi Shimon holds l'shitaso that halacha l'maisa, a flame, the oil of a lamp is always off limits while the flame itself is burning. Halacha l'maisa, if the flame is burning, you cannot go ahead and use the lamp at all. That is for sure. But it's only once the flame is extinguished that the oil becomes permissible. But the son, Rabbi Eliezer, does hold that halacha l'maisa, even when the flame is burning, the oil is still possibly usable. Now, how Rabbi Eliezer sidesteps the potential issues of kibui, right? After all, if you siphon off oil from a lamp that is burning, is that not a problem of mechaba? So again, we'll talk about that in a bit more depth in just a bit. So the Gemara says, however, aval kosu ka'ara va'ashashas lo yazizim min komam. So remember again, it appears that even Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon holds that what? I should say even Rabbi Shimon holds that halacha l'maisa. Remember, let's go back to Rabbi Shimon for just a moment. So Rabbi Shimon says that if you have a lamp, when the lamp is lit, so it's muktzah. Once the lamp is extinguished, then Rabbi Shimon will agree that what? It's no longer muktzah. Not Rabbi Shimon holds it's no longer muktzah. But Rabbi Shimon holds in a case of kos, ashashas, and kara, these larger receptacles which hold oil. So halacha l'maisa, Rabbi Shimon says that even once they're extinguished, you're not permitted to move them. So the Gemara says, Maishnahani. What? Why? I don't understand. So we'll say, what does it matter if the receptacle is larger or smaller? Rabbi Shimon is seemingly teaching us that what? That halacha l'maisa, once the flame goes out, it is no longer considered to be muktzah. So what does it matter if it's a ner or if it's a larger receptacle? To which the Gemara says, Amr Ula, Seifa Asa'an Rabbi Yehuda. So we'll say, to which Ula says that the Seifa is really reflecting the view of Rabbi Yehuda. We'll say, again, what did Rabbi Yehuda say? Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yehuda said that metaltal and ner chadash aval lo yashan. Right, you can go ahead and carry a ner chadash, but not a yashan. So ultimately, again, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, ner chadash only applies to a ner, but doesn't apply to these larger receptacles. So okay, maskif lamar zutra ihachi my aval. If that's the case, then why does the Bryce use lashon of aval? El amar mar zutra li olam Rabbi Shimon. To which the Gemara says no. This is a continuation of Rabbi Shimon's statements. Remember, Rabbi Shimon tells us that what? If you have a ner on Shabbos, so what's the halacha? So when the fire is extinguished, the ner is no longer muktzah. When is that so? V'chi kashar Rabbi Shimon b'ner zuta dedaite iluye. Both say, when does Rabbi Shimon allow you to go ahead and transport a receptacle of oil when the fire has gone out? That's only on a ner, a small receptacle. Why? Because you will say a person knows that what? A person knows that when they kindle that receptacle, what's going to happen? Sometime over the course of Shabbos, it's going to go out. So they have in mind at the onset of Shabbos, when they light it, that when it goes out, I'm going to go ahead and use the rest of that oil for my own, whatever it is. I'm going to use the olive oil for salad dressing. Whatever it is, they have in mind because they know that that ner is going to be extinguished over the course of Shabbos. However, Vahani dinefishi lo. Rabbi say, but these larger receptacles have enough oil to what? To burn through the course of Shabbos. So because they have enough oil to burn through the course of Shabbos, therefore what? It is almost as if a person's das is removed from that receptacle. They have no intention of using the leftover oil, and therefore halacha lemaisa, it remains muktzah for the entire Shabbos, even once the flame goes out. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says, Bezuda, dedaite alemi ba'od yom. Savar sheichala shemen maher, ve'ishtamish bener l'cheshichabe. So we'll say, so in Rabbi Shimon's model is like this. When you light a ner, so remember again, you know it's only going to remain lit for a small amount of time. Therefore, at the onset of Shabbos, when I light in Rabbi Shimon's model, when I light the ner, I know that the fire is going to be extinguished, and therefore I can have in mind to use that receptacle for something else over the course of Shabbos, because I know it's going to become extinguished. However, Aval Hani Rashi says, Lo asikadaiti shicha b'choyom. So we'll say, what's the common denominator between a kos, a ka'ara, and an ashashis? These are all large receptacles, large enough to what? To hold more than 24 hours worth of oil. So therefore, when you kindle one of these receptacles on Erev Shabbos, as far as you're concerned, what's going to happen? It's going to burn for the duration of Shabbos. So because it's going to burn for the duration of Shabbos, remember Rabbi Shimon, he says, as long as that ner is kindled, what's the halacha? It's off limits, right? Because remember, don't bring in here Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon. The son is even more permissive than the father. But in the father's model, Rabbi Shimon's model, he of course understands that when the ner is kindled, when the fire is kindled, you cannot use the lamp. So Rabbi Shimon says, however, on a regular small ner, I know that the fire is going to go out over the course of Shabbos, and therefore I could have in mind to use the ner for something else permitted on Shabbos. But these larger receptacles, which hold more than 24 hours worth of oil, when I kindle that on Erev Shabbos, my das is that what? I'm not touching it over Shabbos. And therefore, even should something happen that should cause the fire to be extinguished, halacha l'maisa, because my das at the onset of Shabbos is that I'm not going to use this on Shabbos, therefore what? Rabbi Shimon will say that it's muktzah. Then Rabbi will say that this is very important, because remember again, let's take a step back. If you remember in last night's daf, we spoke about this idea that when we say that Rabbi Shimon leslie muktzah, doesn't hold a muktzah, what that means is essentially Rabbi Shimon begins with a much more permissive view. Rabbi Shimon says pretty much like you're not muktzah until proven muktzah, right? So therefore, but Rabbi Shimon will say, if there is something at the onset of Shabbos that you actively set aside for non-use, that's muktzah. You make that muktzah. So what's happening over here is as follows. So according to Rabbi Shimon, if you have one of these large receptacles which holds, let's say, 24 hours worth of oil, when you kindle that on Erev Shabbos, what's your das? Your das, if you're kindling one of those receptacles, your das is what? That you want to have it lit the whole time, which means that you're actively setting it aside for non-use. In your mind, there's no framework in which this becomes usable. Therefore, Rabbi Shimon will say, it becomes muktzah, even if what? even if the flame goes out sometime over Shabbos, it still remains muktzah. Masha'en came the ner, which is a smaller receptacle, which bepashtas only remains lit for a couple of hours. It's clear to you that sometime within the not so distant future, that is going to be extinguished, and therefore halacha lamaisa, when it goes out, my das is to be able to use it on Shabbos. That's Shitas Rabbi Shimon. So the Gemara says, Avahani dinafishilo. Ay vahatanya. Most Hashem and Shebener v'Shebekara Aser. Rabbi Shimon Matir. Oh, 1 second, I both say. Bam Kasha. We have a brisa that says that what? The leftover oil inside of the ner, and even leftover oil inside of the ka'ara. The ka'ara, remember, is a bowl which holds a lot more oil, is aser. That's the Tanakama. Rabbi Shimon says that it's mutter. So here you have Rabbi Shimon on record saying that what? That halacha lamaisa, the leftover oil inside of the ner, inside of the car, is mutter. To which the Gemara says, Hasam ka'ara dumya dener, hacha ka'ara dumya dekos. Okay, so I'll say, so apparently what the Gemara says is that halacha lamaisa, there are different types of ka'aros, there are different types of bowls. There are smaller bowls and larger bowls. So there's a bowl that's like a ner and a bowl that's not like a ner. When the Brisa says that Rabbi Shimon permits you to use the leftover oil inside of a ka'ara, that was talking about what? A smaller ka'ara. Good. So the Gemara says as follows. I'm Rabbi Zera. So we'll say, so therefore, what we have over here is as follows. So just so you know, we have the more restrictive opinions of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir, and the more permissive opinions of Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Eliezer B'Shimon. But focusing now on the shita of Rabbi Shimon, because Rabbi Shimon is really one of the dominant opinions in Hilchos Muktzah in the Gemara. So in Rabbi Shimon's Madra Rabosai, essentially halacha lemaisa, when the ner is lit, it's going to be muktzah. But when the ner is extinguished, it's no longer muktzah. And therefore the ner itself is not muktzah. The oil itself is not going to be muktzah. However, even Rabbi Shimon will agree that what? That if you lit a much larger receptacle of oil, what we call the kos, the ka'ara, the ashashis, which hold enough oil to remain lit for the entire Shabbos, Rabbi Shimon would agree in that kind of case, it's clear that your das was not to use the oil. I b'haraya, you lit such a large receptacle, able to be lit the whole Shabbos. Rabbi Shimon will agree in that case, even if the fire subsequently goes out, you still can't use the kli and you can't use the leftover oil. Rabbi Eliezer B'Shimon, so the son comes along and says, no, in that case, halacha l'maisa, you can use the leftover oil even in the larger receptacle. Once it goes out, it's out. Now again, Rabbi Eliezer B'Shimon goes even a step further, that ultimately, again, we'll see that halacha l'maisa, he allows you to even use the dripped off oil even when the ner is still lit. Okay, but we'll see that. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Zera, pamut shedliko ba b'Shabbos. Shabbos say pamut. So what's pamut? Rashi says, menorah shamatachas ve'ino mu'usa. So we'll say, so a pamut is, if you can imagine, a metal menorah. A metal menorah. So we'll say, now what's going on over here? So remember, the ner that we've been speaking about until now is made of what? Is made of cheres, made of earthenware. What happens when you burn oil in an earthenware utensil? It becomes mos. It becomes disgusting. Obviously, when you metal does not become mos, right? Because remember again, what makes the earthenware utensil mos is what? Is absorption. Is absorption. A metallic utensil doesn't have, metallic utensils do have absorption, as we know, but halacha l'maisa, when using it as a candelabra, it doesn't have absorption. So watch this. So Rabbi Zera says, pamut shedliko b'Shabbos, if you kindled a metal candelabra, right? Rashi, the menorah shamatachas ve'ino mu'usa. So listen to this. L'divrei hamatir aser, l'divrei ha'oser mutter. So according to the one who said, right, according to the opinion who said that there's no muktzah by a ner, he would hold that there is muktzah by a pamut, and the one who says that there is muktzah by a ner holds that there would not be muktzah by a pamut. So we're going to explain this. So one more time. The divrei hamatir aser, according to the one who said that it was mutter by the ner, we'll say that it's aser over here. The divrei ha'oser, the one who said it was aser by the ner, muktzah by the ner, we'll say that it is mutter here. Now look at Rashi for just a moment. The divrei hamatir, Rabbi Meir Hamatir ben Yasha. So remember again, Rabbi Meir was the one who said that halacha lemaisa, Rabbi Meir rejected the category of muktzah machmas mius. There was just no such category of muktzah machmas mius. Therefore, Rabbi Meir says that halacha lemaisa, if you did not kindle the ner. Now remember, what Rabbi Meir does subscribe to is anything that was kindled at the onset of Shabbos remains muktzah for the duration of Shabbos. Remains muktzah for the duration of Shabbos. So remember again, what says, but Rabbi Meir holds, Rabbi Meir does not accept muktzah machmas mius. Therefore, according to Rabbi Meir, if you have an old earthenware lamp that you did not kindle on Shabbos, halacha lemaisa, it's not muktzah. So Rabbi Meir, who does not hold of muktzah machmas mius, right? So Rabbi Meir therefore says you can move a ner yashan on Shabbos, yet would aser the metal candelabra. Look at Rashi, oser, bahai, the muktzah machmas iser kidiktani le'el, chutz min haner shedliko bo b'Shabbos. So we'll remember again, so according to Rabbi Meir, he would hold that a metal candelabra would ultimately be muktzah machmas isra. Now we're going to define the parameters of this. On the flip side, l'divrei ha'oser, Rashi says, Rabbi Huda oser ben Yashan shel cheres, hasam hu demos, aval hacha shari v'lesle muktzah machmas isra. Yet on the flip side, Rabbi Huda, who holds that you cannot move a ner yashan, even if it wasn't kindled on Shabbos. Because what? Because halacha lemaisa, it's muktzah machmas mius, does not hold apparently of muktzah machmas iser, and would allow you to go ahead and move the metal candelabra. Why? Because it's not disgusting. Okay, so we're going to have to define the parameters of this. So we'll say, lememra. So we'll say, the way Rabbi Zera is setting this up is a very strange way. We so far know about two categories of muktzah. We're going to see there are more than two, but for our purposes now there are two categories of muktzah. What are the two categories? Muktzah machmas mius, which means something that is disgusting. And because it's disgusting, essentially it's set aside for non-use, therefore you cannot move it on Shabbos. There's also what's called muktzah machmas isser, which means something was asr, and therefore can't be moved. The paradigmatic example of that is a lamp that was kindled at the onset of Shabbos. Right? That was kindled, therefore it's muktzah machmas isser. So the Rabbi Zira is setting this up is, essentially, if you hold of muktzah machmas mius, you don't hold of muktzah machmas isser. And if you hold of muktzah machmas isser, you don't hold of muktzah machmas mius. To which the Gemara says, but that's not true. Lememra, the Rabbi Yehuda, first wide line of Osim and Dalad Amadalef. Lememra, the Rabbi Yehuda muktzah machmas mius islay, muktzah machmas isser leslay. So you tell me then that Rabbi Yehuda holds of muktzah machmas mius, but he doesn't hold. Remember, so Rabbi Yehuda was quoted in the Brisa in the beginning of the Gemara saying what? That you are not permitted to move a ner yashan. If you have an old lamp, even if you did not kindle it that Shabbos, you still can't move it. Why? Because it's muktzah machmas mius. It's disgusting, and therefore ultimately, again, it's set aside for non-use. You can't use it. Are you trying to tell me that Rabbi Yehuda only holds a muktzah machmas mius and does not hold of muktzah machmas iser? That's not true. V'hatanya, here we go. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kol hanero shama teches metaltalin, chutz min haner shedliko bo b'Shabbos. So both Rabbi Yehuda holds that in general, if you have a metal candelabra, right, you have a metal ner, you can move that on Shabbos, unless, of course, what? You kindled a candle in there on Shabbos. So remember again, Rabbi Yehuda holds that essentially, once the metal candelabra has been used on Shabbos, it becomes muktzah for the duration of Shabbos, even if there is no longer a candle kindled in it. Right? Good. So we'll say that's the general concept, that once something begins as being muktzah at the onset of Shabbos, it remains muktzah for the duration of Shabbos. But what do you see? Rabbi Huda is saying that's true, even in what? A metal candelabra. So you see that halacha, now metal candelabra, remember again, does not become disgusting. Therefore, the only reason it would become asr, become muktzah is why? Muktzah machmas isser. Because it had a candle kindled inside of it. And therefore, again, that's muktzah machmas isser. So you see that's what? That Rabbi Yehuda holds, that Rabbi Yehuda not only holds of the category of muktzah machmas mius, but also holds of muktzah machmas isser. To which the Gemara says, Ela I itmar hachi itmar. Rather, this is what you have to say. Am Rabbi Zera, Pamut shedliko alav b'Shabbos Divrei hakol aser. Rather, Rabbi said everybody agrees to is as follows. If you have a metal candelabra in which you lit a candle at the onset of Shabbos, obviously you're lighting this before Shabbos, but it was kindled going into Shabbos, everyone agrees that such a candelabra is muktzah for the duration of Shabbos. Then essentially, Shabbos say, which is another way of saying, everyone subscribes to muktzah machmas iser. So therefore, again, if the candle began Shabbos, ultimately again with a candle kindled in the metal candelabra, everyone agrees that the metal candelabra remains muktzah for the duration of Shabbos. Everyone subscribes to muktzah machmas iser. Once there was a burning candle in that candelabra at the onset of Shabbos, halacha l'maaseh, it remains muktzah. However, lo hidliku alav, but if you have a metal candelabra in which no candle was kindled at the onset of Shabbos, divrei hakol mutter. Everyone will agree that the candelabra ultimately again is not muktzah. Why would the candelabra not be muktzah? So number one, it's not muktzah machmas miyus. Why not? Because it's metal and not earthenware. And also, again, a candle was not kindled in it at the onset of Shabbos. So I will say, we're going to see that this is not necessarily true. That again, for our purposes, a candelabra, even if not used at the onset of Shabbos, ultimately will what? Will still be muktzah over the course of Shabbos, because Lamaisa, its primary use is for something that is prohibited on Shabbos. We're going to see, Rabbosai, that the halachos of muktzah do not necessarily require that an item be in a state of active use at the onset of Shabbos, but rather, even if an item was not being used at all at the onset of Shabbos, but its primary use is for something that is prohibited on Shabbos, it remains muktzah. So, for example, we'll say, we're not going to share what the Gemara is saying over here, but Lamaisa, the way the Gemara is kind of making it sound is like this. First of all, the Gemara is telling us it's not an either or. That halacha lamaisa, there are opinions who hold both muktzah machmas miyus and muktzah machmas iser, which Rabbi says how we hold halacha lamaisa. In the world of muktzah, we accept both of these categories. So you could have items that are muktzah machmas miyus, if something is disgusting and set aside for non-use, a person wouldn't normally handle it. So halacha lamaisa, that's called muktzah machmas miyus. But there's also muktzah machmas iser, things that are just inherently usser because the object itself serves a non-Shabbos purpose. So we'll say the greatest example of that, of course, is your lamp or your candelabra, right? Which halacha l'maisa. So we'll say, so for example, so this is very important. This is why, for example, so halacha l'maisa, we generally don't light Shabbos candles on the table. Well, I mean, let me take it back. You can light Shabbos candles. Nothing wrong with lighting Shabbos candles on the table. But if you do that, remember, what can't you do? You can't shake off your tablecloth, right? Because remember, again, once those Shabbos candles are lit on the table, that's it. That's it. They cannot be moved. That's muktzah machmas iser. Again, we'll see exceptions to this rule, but it's muktzah machmas iser. Why is it muktzah machmas iser? Because remember, again, the status of the candle of the lighter of the candelabra, right? The candlesticks are established at the onset of Shabbos, even though they've subsequently been extinguished. Halacha l'maisa, the muktzah status still remains. So I will say, so now, but not only that, we're going to see that halacha l'maisa. Let's say again, you have multiple pairs of candlesticks. So what happens? You have candlesticks that you did not use at the onset of Shabbos. So halacha l'maisa, we're going to see they're still muktzah. They're still muktzah. Why are they still muktzah? Because it was the way in our world of muktzah, it's not just what the utensils are being used for now. It's what their general use is for. So because candlesticks are generally used for lighting candles is something that is asur on Shabbos. Therefore, even if these particular candlesticks were not used at the onset of Shabbos, they will still ultimately be muktzah on Shabbos. Again, we're getting about 10 steps ahead, but the point the Gemara is making is the halacha l'maisa, Rabbi Yehuda, who holds a muktzah machmas mius, also subscribes to the category of muktzah machmas iser. So also, therefore, in our journey through muktzah, which is brand new, which just started really today, primarily today, we have two categories of muktzah so far: muktzah machmas iser, muktzah machmas mius. Weiter. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. We'll see an interesting case. Mita sheyachta l'maos. We'll listen to this interesting case. if you have a bed that was set aside for money. What does it mean, a bed that was set aside for money? So this is where you kept your money. You kept money under the mattress, right? Or in this case, on top of the mattress, right? So you go ahead and you put your money on top of the bed. So you have a bed that you designate, this is my money bed. Right? I have a bed I sleep in, and this is my money bed. So we'll say, so what's the halacha? Ashla taltal. So such a bed is muktzah. Such a bed is muktzah. Therefore, cannot be moved on Shabbos. Now, both say, now understand the novelty in this ruling. Yochda means what? Yochda means you set it aside. Now, setting something aside just means that you designated it. It doesn't necessarily mean that what? That you used it. So now, this Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda is teaching me Rav's teaching me a very interesting case, which is that apparently just being miyachid, just designating the bed as the money bed is enough to endow it with money bed status, which then ultimately goes ahead and makes it muktzah. Meisvei, so the Gemara says, 1 second, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. So Meisvei, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Mitaltel ner chadash, avalo ner yashan, avalo yashan. On Shabbos, you are permitted to go ahead and move a brand new lamp, but not an old lamp. But not all. So before you turn the page, look at the last Rashi. Metaltel ner chadash. Rashi says, V'ha Rabbi Yehuda ka'amar lei, de'isle muktzah. Amalo mitzar behazmana midikamar avalo yashan velo katan. Excuse me, midikamar avalo yashan velo katani avalo hamiyucha lekach. Now, both, and I watch this. So the Gemara quotes the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says you can carry a new lamp, you can move a new lamp, but not an old lamp. Now, both say, what's the definition of a new lamp? What's the definition of a new lamp? One which has not been used. Now, even though it has not been used, what has occurred? Bepashtus, you are miyached it. So you set it aside for use as a lamp, but you have not yet actively used it. So even though you set it aside to be used, because you have not yet used it, therefore what? Therefore, halacha l'maisa, you're permitted to move it. So what do you see from here? You see from here, simply being miyached something, simply designated something, ultimately, again, doesn't really endow it with status. It's only once you go and actively use it that it becomes endowed with status. So Rabbi Yehuda essentially says, Rabbi Osai, that if you have an earthenware lamp that has not been used, essentially we don't look at that as a lamp. What do we look at it as? A kli chares. It's the earthenware utensil. So you want to go ahead and move it on Shabbos, or you want to drink tea out of it on Shabbos? Right? Go ahead and use it. It's not muktzah. It's not muktzah. So you see from here that endowing, so I should say, designating something, ultimately, again, does not endow it with identity. Does not endow it with identity. It's only once you use it that gives it identity. Says the Gemara Amud Beis, Uma ner de lahachi avida. Now, both say, now, interestingly enough, a ner, when you fashion a ner, a lamp, it is clear what the use of it is, right? They both say it's not the pshat that a person has a earthenware utensil, you could use it either as a teacup or ultimately, again, as a nair. A nair was a specially formed utensil, right? It had a lip, it had an opening, it was shaped a certain way. So it's clear what that item is going to be used for. Yet what? It doesn't have the identity of a nair until when? Until you use it. Umaner de lahachi avida kilo hidlikba shari litaltula. So I will say a ner, which is clearly going to be used for a particular purpose, yet it doesn't gain its identity until it's used. Mita de lav lahachi avida lo kol shekin. Then certainly what? Certainly a bed, which I will say could be used for multiple purposes, sitting, sleeping, yeah, I guess keeping your money on there also. But lamaisa, a bed, therefore certainly shouldn't what? Shouldn't become muktzah until when, Rabbi Osai? Until you go ahead and you use it. So Rabbi Osai, hear what's happening over here? The Gemara suggests this. Even Rabbi Yehuda, who holds of muktzah, right? Rabbi Yehuda has a more restrictive view of muktzah, but even Rabbi Yehuda holds that a nair. So remember, Rabbi Osai, I went to the store, I purchased, I asked the clerk, can I please have a nair? And what does he give me? He gives me a nair. It's an earthenware utensil that is shaped for a particular purpose. I bring it home. I don't yet use it. Rabbi Huda says, on Shabbos, you can move that. Why? It's not muktzah. It's a nair. It's not a nair until it's used as a nair. It doesn't have the identity. So you see from what Rabbi say, that designation by itself does not convey identity. Rabbi says there's a profound musar in this. This goes back to last night's daf. Remember again, we saw last night's daf, that incredible ha'ara, that the what was the lashon of the Gemara? The lashon of the Gemara was nitzotzos les be mamish. Right? What was the nitzotzos? Right? Sparks don't have any mamish, don't have any substance to them. So we saw that in the olam hamusar. What that means is that halacha lemaisa, a spark by itself, is meaningless, right? Very nice to have a spark of inspiration. Sparks are very nice, but sparks don't do anything unless you plug them into action, right? Unless you start doing something with the spark, ultimately, again, the spark itself just simply fizzles out, as it does when it falls into the kli. Same musar over here. What is the Gemara saying? Designation is great. Designation is fantastic. You know what designation is like? Designation is kind of like dreams. Right? Designations are like aspirations. Designations are like goals. It's fantastic to have them. It's great to have them. Have a whole notebook of them. But if we're honest, they're shtickle meaningless unless you actually do something. It's a little bit meaningless to have goals, aspirations, and dreams unless you mamish plug it into reality. Something only becomes real when you act, when you do something. So Rabbi Huda says, you can have a kli that's designated for whatever you want. It only gains identity when you use it. They're both saying, each of us is a kli also. When do you gain your identity in life? Not when you think about what you want to do. Not when you say, this is my purpose, this is my goal, this is my designation. The only time the personalistic kli gains identity is when you use it, is when you do something to be miyachid. I'm miyachid for kedusha, I'm miyachid for Torah, I'm miyachid for tzedakah, I'm miyachid for chesed. I have in mind to designate myself for all of these things. Beautiful and an incredible first step. But you only gain identity when you act. The kli only gains identity when it's used for something. We only gain our identity when we engage in dynamic activity as well. Such an incredible musar. So the Gemara says, how can you therefore tell me that the bed is going to be muktzah when you are miyachid? Remember again, what did the Brisa say about it? The Brisa said that as soon as you go ahead, mita shiyachta lemos asur taltala, as soon as you designate the bed as a money bed, you're no longer permitted to go ahead and use it. So how could that be? So the Gemara says, itmar hachi itmar. So Rabbi says, instead, here's how you have to say it. If you have a bed, watch this. So if you have a bed that you set aside as your money bed, this is the bed that I'm going to go ahead and put money on. If you put money on the bed, so Rabbi says, if you put money on the bed, you are not permitted to go ahead and move the bed. You're not permitted to move the bed. So we'll say, remember again, I just want to point out, this, by the way, is the concept ultimately again of basis, right? Basis means when something is a base to muktzah. Remember again, the bed itself, there's nothing inherently wrong with the bed, but the bed now serves as a base, just like the nair, right? There's nothing inherently muktzah about an earthenware receptacle, but it becomes a basis ultimately again for the nair. So the bed is becoming a basis, a base for the money. So if you have a bed that is set aside for money, once you place money on it, asr letaltala. Then I both say what that means is as follows: it's asr to move the bed. Now, what does it mean? It's asr to move the bed. What it means is if you have a bed that you set aside for money, and in fact you used it for money, comes Shabbos Kodesh, even if there's no money on that bed, you still can't move it. Why? Because two things happened over here. Number one, you were miyachid for money, which by itself is meaningless, but then you actually used it for money. Now, I will say now what happens over here is once you use it for money, then your designation takes hold. And now this is no, so I will say, in the world of beds, in the olam amitus, as they call it, right? So right when you put money on a bed, so there are two different ways you could look at that bed. That's a money bed, or that's a bed in which at some point in time money was placed on it. And I will say that is not a question of semantics. That's a question of identity. That's a question of identity. So in case number one, you are miyached. You said that bed, hinei muchan muzuman, that bed is my money bed. Okay? So remember, that designation by itself is meaningless. But once you put money on the bed, the designation becomes very meaningful. And this is now a money bed. Then I will say, what's the ramifications of being a money bed? The ramifications of being a money bed is that on Shabbos, even if there's no money on you, you're still what? Ultimately, again, you're still muktzah. You're still muktzah. Because again, you're a money bed. You had the designation and you had money put on you, you're a money bed. So even if on Shabbos there's no money on the bed, you still can't move that bed. Lo amos. But if you designated the bed as a money bed, but you never actually put money on it, mutzah taltala, then I will say ultimately again, you're permitted to move the bed on Shabbos, which makes sense. Why? Because designation by itself is not meaningful. I will say, remember again, this is not unique by Shabbos. Remember we saw this in Halot, we saw this in Brachas. Remember the case you saw in Brachas, I will say, if you buy yourself a nice tefillin bag, beautiful brand new tefillin bag, and you decide, you know what, before you've used it, you decide, you know what, this would make an incredible lunch bag. An incredible lunch bag. I could take it to the office, right? Halavai will be zocheh to go back to the office, right? So what happens? And now what happens? I have my name on it. It's perfect. I can put it in the fridge. No one's going to take my lunch. I'll definitely have the fanciest leather lunch bag, right, than anyone else. But Lamaisa, can I do that? And the halach is yes. As long as you never used it for tefillin, you could actually go ahead and do that. So this is not unique over here. So therefore the Gemara says in case number one is I was miyachid. I designated the bed for money. So if I actively put money on the bed, it's now a money bed. To the point that on Shabbos it'll be muktzah even if there's no money on it. If I designated it but never put money on it, totally mutter. It's not muktzah at all because designation by itself is meaningless. Framework number two, lo yichtalamos. I will say, however, what happens if I did not set it aside for money? Right? It's just the bed. And I did not particularly designate the bed for anything specific. So what's the halacha? Yesh alamos asla taltala. So we'll say again, if on Shabbos, I will say now, I never designated the bed at all. It's just a regular bed. If I put money on it, if there's money on it on Shabbos, then obviously I can't move the bed. It's muktzah. Ein alamos. However, again, if there's no money on it on Shabbos, even if what? There was money on it during the week. But again, this is a regular bed. I never designated it one way or the other. So if there's money on it on Shabbos, it's muktzah. I can't move the bed. The bed is a basis. But if Lamaisa, there's no money on it, either on it on Shabbos, even though there was money on it on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, if there's no money on it now, the bed is permitted to be moved. V'hu shalo hayu ala ben hashmashas. But I will say very important. But this is all assuming that what? All assuming that there was no money on the bed ben hashmashas. I will say, remember again, this goes back to one of the most important halachos in muktzah, which we've seen already now 3 times in 2 days, which is migo de iskatsoy ben hashmashas iskatsoy lekuli shabsa. The muktzah status of an item is determined ben hashmashas. If you are muktzah ben hashmashas, that status follows you the rest of Shabbos. So I will say, so now even if you have a bed that was not designated as a money bed, so therefore again, if there's no money on that bed on Shabbos, the bed is totally fine. And even if there was money on that bed throughout the week, as long as there's no money on it on Shabbos, the bed is totally not muktzah. However, if there was money on the bed ben hashmashas, even if the money was subsequently removed. So let's say, I don't know, I left money on the bed for a non-Jewish worker. He came, right, I left it for him on Thursday, I just forgot about it. He came ben hashmashas, he came Shabbos morning or Shabbos night to take it, or the money blew off, but it was there all ben hashmashas. Once the item is muktzah ben hashmashas, the item remains muktzah for the entire Shabbos. So therefore again, halacha l'maisa, what comes out of here is as follows. So first of all, a very important halacha regarding designation. Designation by itself does not mean anything. It's only when designation is followed up, ultimately again by dynamic activity, that designation becomes meaningful. It's true for utensils, and it's true for people. And therefore, halacha l'maisa, if you have your money bed, if you designate it as a money bed and used it, such a money bed will be muktzah on Shabbos, even if there's no money on it. But if you designated it but did not use it, if there's money on it on Shabbos, it's muktzah. No money on it on Shabbos, it's not muktzah. No money on it, it's not muktzah. But halacha l'maisa, again, if the bed was never designated, then halacha l'maisa, if there's no money on it, then of course it's not muktzah. If there was money on it over the course of ben hashmashos, ultimately again it will be muktzah. Good, Abba, so let's just finish up. So Amar Ula says, Amar Ula, Masiv Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer raises the kasha. Muchni shala. So we'll say this is talking about a wheel of a wagon. So we're going to do this piece a bit quickly just because of the time. So if you have a wheel of a wagon, so we'll say what this is going to be dealing with over here is the halachos of tuman tara vis-a-vis kelim, vis-a-vis utensils, and trying to figure out when is the wheel part of a wagon, when is it not part of a wagon. So it says the Gemara, muchni shala, bizman shehin nishmetas ein chiborla. So we'll say when the wheel is detachable, easily detachable from the rest of the wagon, so the wheel is not considered to be part of the wagon. Legabe what? Therefore, ve'einin dedesima. So we'll say the halacha is any utensil that has the ability to contain 40 sa'ah no longer has the really doesn't have the, is no longer makabel tumah. Right? Is no longer makabel tumah. In other words, we'll say once it's able to hold 40 sa'ah, it has really the din of like an ohel. And no longer, if you're looking, I'll show you Rashi quickly. Rashi says, Ve'in matzalas ima ba'olames. Rashi says, I'm sorry, Ve'in dedas. Le'in tuma ki deprecious tekli eitz amachsik mem sa belach, shin krem biyavish, tahar. Ki darminon, tekli. So we'll say, so essentially, without getting into the technicalities of tuman tara right now, but any utensil that has the ability to retain 40 sa'ah, the volume of 40 sa'ah, is no longer makabel tuma. So I will say, so remember again, when you have a wagon, so the shaila is which parts of the wagon combine to form that shear. So what the Bryce is telling me now is that if the wheel is detachable, then the wheel is not counted with the rest of the wagon for 40 sa'ah purposes. Ve'in matzelas ima ba'oalames. And therefore halacha l'maisa, if the rest of the wagon does have the volume, the ability to contain 40 sa'ah, so ultimately, again, halacha l'maisa, if the wheel is detachable, it is not saved with the rest of the wagon. So we'll say, just to illustrate the way this works, let's say you have a wagon that is able to contain the volume of 40 sa'ah, and that wagon travels over a grave. So remember again, the rest of the wagon, ultimately, again, is not mekabel tumah from the grave that goes up. But if the wheel is detachable and it's therefore not considered to be part of the rest of the wagon, the wheel could contract tumas meis. Ve'in gorino sab Shabbos bizman sheyesh aleh mos. And furthermore, you cannot drag the wheel when there's money on top of that wheel. So we'll say now it's transitioning a little bit, right? If there's money on that wheel, you can't drag the wheel on Shabbos because the wheel will be muktzah. I ha'ina leha mos sharia, which tells you that what? If there was no money on that wheel, you would be permitted to drag the wheel. Now the inference of that is what Rabbi say, that even if there was money on the wheel ben hashmashos, but there's no money now, you can drag the wheel, which tells you that what? That even if there was money on the wheel ben hashmashos, even if there's muktzah on an object ben hashmashos, but the muktzah is removed afterwards, the object is no longer muktzah. To which the Gemara says, no. Hahi Rabbi Shimon he the lesle muktzah. That ultimately reflects the view of Rabbi Shimon, because Rabbi Shimon doesn't hold a muktzah. So Rabbosai, what the Gemara seems to be saying is as follows. Rabbi Shimon seems to be saying that halacha l'maisa, that as long as muktzah is not there, Rabbi Shimon, the Gemara is suggesting, although we're going to challenge this in tomorrow's daf, that Rabbi Shimon holds, he agrees to the concept of muktzah, but he only holds that an object is muktzah when the muktzah object is present. But if the muktzah object is gone, then the object is no longer muktzah. So if you have a wheel that has money on it, and that money was there ben hashmashos, that's fine, the object is muktzah. But if for some reason the muktzah object is removed, the object is no longer muktzah. So the Gemara says, "V'Rav Rabbi Huda Sirale," and Rav holds like Rabbi Huda. The Gemara says, top of Mem Here, just 2 more lines, then we'll stop. Hachanai Misav Rav Rabbi Huda Sirale, and Rabbi say it would appear that it's clear that Rav himself holds like Rabbi Huda, who has a more restrictive view of muktzah. So the Gemara says. Right, so the Gemara says, here we go. The Amar Rav says, Manichan ner al gabi dekel b'Shabbos, ve'i manichan ner al gabi dekel b'Yom You are permitted to, so Rabbi says, it's actually an interesting idea. So the ner over here is like a lantern, a ner. So you're permitted to dangle a ner in a palm tree on Shabbos, but you can't do so on Yom Tov. Now Rabbi say, now what's the issue with dangling a ner from a palm tree? Look at Rashi. Manichan ner ba'od yom. Now obviously, you're going in and you're dangling this ner before Shabbos or Yom Tov starts. Rashi says, Al gabe dakel, v'yadlik sham b'Shabbos, deleka lemechash l'chesheyichabe lishka leminei, v'nimtza mishtamish b'mechuber, decheven de'aktzi ledavar asa ben hashmashos, is katzi l'kul yoma. Now we'll say, now what are we concerned about? We're concerned about a person potentially climbing the tree on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Now remember again, climbing a tree is asr midirabani. You can't climb a tree on Shabbos or Yom Tov out of a concern that you may come to God and break off a branch. That's the halacha. So we'll say, now watch this. So that concern does not apply on Shabbos. Why doesn't it apply on Shabbos? Because Rav will say that halacha l'mais, Rav holds like Rabbi Yehuda, namely, that once something is muktzah at the onset of Shabbos, that status remains over the course of the entire Shabbos. Therefore, once that lantern was kindled in the palm tree at the onset of Shabbos, ben hashmashos of Shabbos, it remains muktzah for the duration of Shabbos. And once it remains muktzah for the duration of Shabbos, there's no concern that what? Someone's going to climb the tree and get it out. However, so manichin al ner agabe dekel b'Shabbos, ve'ein manichin b'Yom Tov. So Rabbi say, what's the concern about Yom Tov? The concern about Yom Tov is that halacha l'maisa, maybe the halachos of muktzah do not apply the same way on Yom Tov, and therefore one may come to scale the tree in order to retrieve the lamp on Yom Tov. So says the Gemara, I amrit bishlama rav d'Rabbi Yehuda siralei hainu deshani ben Shabbos liyom Tov. See, if you hold that Rav holds like Rabbi Yehuda, that's why there's a distinction between Shabbos, because although we haven't seen this explicitly, there will be a distinction between the halachos of muktzah on Shabbos and halachos of muktzah on Yom Tov, which makes sense. I'll say why. Because remember again, on Yom Tov you could kindle. If on Yom Tov you could kindle, the lamp can't be muktzah. So if you hold that Rav holds like Rabbi Yehuda, namely that what? When an item becomes muktzah ben hashmashas, it remains muktzah for the entire Shabbos. Now I understand why the halacha is you could kindle the lamp in the palm tree on Erev Shabbos, but you can't kindle on the Erev Yom Tov. What are we concerned about? Because on Shabbos, we're not concerned you're going to climb the tree. Why are we concerned you're going to climb the tree? Because the only reason you can climb the tree would be why? To retrieve the lamp. But on Shabbos, you can't retrieve the lamp. Why can't you retrieve the lamp? Because once it was muktzah ben hashmashets, it remains muktzah through the entire Shabbos. Yom Tov, that's not the case. Yom Tov, there's no quote-unquote din of muktzah, and therefore there would be a concern that if we allow you to kindle the lamp in the tree, you may come to what? Climb the tree to go ahead and retrieve the lamp. Ella I amrit Rabbi Shimon svirale. But if you say that he holds like Rabbi Shimon, Mali Shabbos, Mali Yom Tov. Ultimately, again, then Rabbi Shimon's model. Remember, again, we are suggesting that according to Rabbi Shimon, halacha l'maisa, even by Shabbos, just because something was muktzah ben hashmashas, it does not remain muktzah the entire Shabbos. And therefore, there would be a concern according to Rabbi Shimon, we really don't want you even lighting a lamp in the palm tree on Shabbos, because once it goes out on Shabbos, we would be concerned that what? You would go up and retrieve the lamp, bringing it down, thereby climbing the tree on Shabbos. So what we end off with over here is seeing. So remember, we have a general machlokes in Hilchos Muktzah, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon. On a most basic level, Rabbi Shimon essentially says everything's not muktzah, quote unquote, until it's proven that it is muktzah. Rabbi Yehuda's kind of position is that what? Everything is muktzah until proven not muktzah. That's a little bit of a generalization, not a totally true statement, but it illustrates the general mahus of the machlokes. Now we see there's another sub-machlokes. The other sub-machlokes is Rabbi Yehuda will hold that halacha l'maisa, when something is muktzah ben hashmashas, that status of muktzah remains the entire Shabbos, even if the status of the item changes. Rabbi Shimon, on the other hand, holds that no, even if something was muktzah ben hashmashos, ultimately, again, if the status changes, then the muktzah, if the status changes, then the muktzah status of the item could change over the duration of Shabbos as well. The paradigmatic example of that could be a what? Could be a ner. According to Rabbi Yehuda, once the ner is kindled over the entirety of Ben Hashmashos, it remains muktzah for the entire Shabbos, even if the flame goes out. According to Rabbi Shimon, there is the possibility that once the ner goes out, perhaps some elements of the ner could potentially be permitted over the duration of Shabbos. I will say we will stop over here. So again, just our takeaways. Our takeaways are we're introduced to two new categories of muktzah: muktzah machmas mius, muktzah machmas iser. We have the ongoing machlokes, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, and now a further revelation of that machlokes is: does the status of an item ben hashmashos dictate its status for the duration of Shabbos? Rabbi Yehuda says yes. Rabbi Shimon says no. Halacha l'maaseh mi'eretz Hashem. We will see tomorrow. Shkach Habosain. Wishing everyone a wonderful rest of the day. Looking forward to continuing the Sugya Mi'eretz Hashem over the course of the week. Yashikoach.